But yesterday, as many people started to ask, where is Pope Francis? Where's the proof of life? People were questioning whether or not he was in fact alive. Some speculated that he's been dead a while or in a coma and just it's being all hidden from us. And yesterday, the Vatican apparently put out an audio recording. I'm going to play it for you. It's very quick. Have a listen. Listen to this.
Agradezco de todo corazón las oraciones que hacen por mi salud de la plaza. Los acompaño acá. Que Dios lo bendiga y que la Virgen cuide. Gracias.
I'll read the translation real quick for you. It says, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your prayers, for my health from the square. I accompany you from here. May God bless you and the Virgin protect you. Thank you. Close quote. His Holiness Pope Francis. Joining us now to discuss this is Dr. Anthony Stine from Return to Tradition. Good morning to you, Dr. Stine. Welcome back to the show. Well, was this the kind of proof of life that will satisfy your curiosity?
For me, sure.
but not for everybody. Some people are still questioning.
I covered this on my channel this morning, like 2 hours ago, and already people are saying, "Oh, that could be AI." You know, this is coming out at the same time that I don't know if you heard this. There's a investigation being called for and maybe being launched into every single thing Joe Biden did, because it turns out it looks like every single thing he ever did was authorized with an auto pen. And some people are saying, well, this could just be the, an AI equivalent of the same thing. I don't buy that personally, but as one very pro-Francis commentator said on X yesterday in response to this audio recording, that that there are some people who will not be satisfied with video or photographic evidence that he is alive. I don't blame people for being suspicious, because they, on top of saying this, with releasing this audio recording, the same time they did that, they also said, we are not going to give daily medical updates anymore. We're going to give them every few days. And I'm like, guys, you're not helping.
Exactly. Not helping. They're only fueling the flame of the conspirators. Now, I will say this. When I listened to that clip, what I heard was like an audio... There's weird audio noises in that clip that makes me, as somebody who's done audio work now for a few decades, I think I listen to that and I go, that sounds like oversampling. It sounds like maybe they slowed it down. Either slowed it down or they did something to it. It sounds tweaked. It doesn't sound like normal audio. You can hear the breathing machine in the background as well, and his labored breathing. That's all very clear. But there's this weird audio noise that's in there that to me sounds like it's either oversampled or it's been edited or it's been slowed down in some way. Did you hear that?
When you not initially, but when you played that, it did sound strange, and it could very well be that they were trying to clean up the audio quality through like post-recording mastering of some kind, especially if he was speaking in essentially a whisper, so that you could actually hear what he was saying. They may have been over amplifying it and then trying to get rid of the background noise that also gets over amplified. And when you do that too much, if you start playing with your audio quality past a certain point, you can improve it, but there comes a point where any attempt to further improve it actually degrades the quality of what you're hearing.
Exactly.
And whether it's through overcompression or other things. And
it could also just be a recording of a recording. You know, I played the Vatican. I played the EWTN clip that a minute ago, not the original one the Vatican put out. So it could also just be a recording of a recording. But I guess the most obvious point of this is it's clear he is very labored. You know, he is struggling to speak.
This is on top that's worth remembering, because several days ago the Vatican let slip that they are now building a hospital style suite in Casa Santa Marta.
Wow.
So people are, he's never returning to the Vatican. Yeah, he is. He's just going to go to the new hospital suite in Casa Santa Marta. That's what some insiders let leak on there. I expect he's going to make a recovery, but not a full recovery. And I don't have joy in telling people this, but this whole episode will probably mark the beginning of the final chapter of his papacy. And so you should pray accordingly as your conscience dictates that you pray. It's just, people should accept that. Now, how long this chapter will be, who knows? I have said before, we might have him for 5 more years. I just can't imagine 5 more years of him spending a great deal of time in the hospital, especially since he signed something several years ago. I think it was at the beginning of his pontificate, saying that if he was incapacitated for a long time, he had already signed a resignation in the event of such an event. So this is the old, for those of you familiar with old Malachi Martin's book, Windswept House, the forgotten plot of that is the actual trying to force then John Paul II to resign with what was called the resignation protocol. And Francis signed it willingly, early on in his papacy, that if he was incapacitated for a long time, it would take effect. I don't know what the incapacitated, what it means, but I don't think he's going to resign. But if he has further health episodes that he does recover from, there's going to be a point where those who have access to that document will start to have that conversation. And you can see that already. Look at Cardinal Roach moving to the middle. I mean, right.
Oh, I know. Yes, that's what I was going to go next is, well, 2 things I want to bring up still with the time we have with you. One is listening to his voice and speaking. How confident are you in all the reports? You and I discussed this last week about the kind of work he's doing from the hospital. Do you think he's actually working? Does it sound like he could be getting any work done, speaking and laboring to breathe like that? That's question 1. And then 2, the politicking going on behind the scenes amongst these cardinals. These cardinals, if listen, I'm not a betting man, but if I were, I'd put my money on these cardinals think a conclave is fast approaching because they are lobbying like no tomorrow. Would you say that's fair?
Yes, and the reports are that Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Cardinal Secretary of State, is lobbying behind the scenes and has been since practically the start of this to try to secure the votes. And by all accounts, he would be, he's the architect of the deal with China that allowed the Chinese Communist Party to choose bishops. Okay, we're not talking about somebody here who's going to inspire a lot of confidence in the faithful. If you are looking for your sort of Trumpian reformist kind of just bull in a china shop, just tear everything down and fix the institution to preserve the institution kind of pope, because I've seen people make that comparison, and I don't like the comparing a pope to Trump thing. That's just a weird comparison for a lot of reasons. But if you're looking for somebody that have that effect, like we're seeing going on in the U.S. government right now, Pietro Parolin is quite literally the opposite of that. And to the point where, reportedly from insider sources in Rome, Francis is considering changing the rules of the conclave in such a way to prevent Cardinal Parolin from becoming pope.
Yeah,
which is saying something, because I'm frankly not the biggest fan of the things Francis has been doing as pope of the church.
Help me understand then. Okay, let me just ask you, because I don't understand this. Pope Francis is the pope. Cardinal Parolin works for him. If he doesn't like him, why not fire him?
This is a very good question, but at the same time, there have been plenty of examples of people who would keep somebody they don't like close to them, especially if they are otherwise very useful. And Cardinal Parolin is ruthlessly efficient in promoting sort of this globalist program out of the Vatican on the world stage. When the rumors were coming out that he was politicking behind the scenes, I went and did some digging, and I remembered something about him speaking at some very questionable organization several years ago. One of the very first stories I covered on my YouTube channel was the story of him going to the Bilderberg conference in 2018.
Yes.
The Bilderberg conference is it's like the World Economic Forum on steroids. And that's where he was going. And he reportedly was there to talk about the gospel. I'm like, no, you weren't. You don't go to the Bilderberg conference as an honored guest to spread the gospel.
Right.
They're not interested in inviting you to that. You cannot just walk into the Bilderberg conference and be given a platform to speak. That's the kind of figure we're talking about here. On the flip side of that, though, he's not the only one politicking. I mean, clearly, Cardinal Roach is either politicking to keep his post or politicking for an outside shot at the conclave, which would be hysterical. There are a handful of figures that you would want to get on your knees and beg for mercy from God if emerged on that loggia and Roach is on that list. Now, he's also not on the list of people who are likely to become pope. But then again, he who walks into a conclave as pope walks out as a cardinal. So we don't know who the next pope is. Jesus knows who the next pope is. No one else does. And, you know, Francis likes to remind us of the God of surprises. And sometimes it is very surprising. Pope.
Golly whiz, Dr. Stine, at least we can have comfort in knowing that it's the Holy Spirit that picks the Pope, right?
I love that. There have been some people reminding people, like scholarly types reminding people that the church has never said the Holy Spirit actively chooses the Pope. That what's supposed to happen is in the conclave, the cardinals are supposed to pray and fast and offer the mass for the guidance of the Holy Spirit in the process. And they're supposed to open themselves to the guidance of the Holy Spirit. But as we reminded, Cardinal Godfrey Daniels, about 10 years ago, reminded people or told people that he and his group, the St. Gallen Mafia, as he called themselves, he called his allies that. They politicked at the conclave to choose Jorge Mario Bergoglio, Pope Francis. He admitted that.
Yeah.
And
McCarrick bragged about it.
McCarrick bragged about it too. There's been a handful of really monstrous figures who have gotten their hands on the papacy to say, and these are men who are unequivocally evil. Go look at Benedict IX, okay, or 10th. He was a pope during this wonderful little phase of history we call the pornocracy, okay, and they don't call it that for no reason. This is a man who was pope like 3 times. And he bought the papacy. Okay, the Holy Spirit did not actively choose that evil man to be pope. Now, he's not considered an anti-pope because he didn't go out there and try to change the church's teachings on things, and there wasn't another competitor out there trying to be pope. None of the reasons that people get called anti-pope. But if you could be an anti-pope for being a scoundrel, he'd be Exhibit A. As like the worst. Yeah. The things that man did. Right. So I'm just saying, like, the Holy Spirit doesn't choose the Pope. The cardinals can actually ask for the guidance of the Holy Spirit in the process, and they should. But I'm just one of those people who tells you the uncomfortable thing of not having seen any evidence of that for the last several decades either, unfortunately.
Proof of life.
Hey, if you like this kind of content, I'd be super grateful if you would consider buying me a coffee. I'll put a link below, and on your way down, smash that subscribe and check out this video right here because you're not going to want to miss anything.